Get my 6. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Homesteading Off the Grid and whatever the hell this channel's about. But I'll tell you one thing, Bigfoot Sasquatch don't care about your stick figure family. I'm hearing footsteps up in here already. I just got here and you heard it. Guys, several things going on today. We have... Get my 6. Another giveaway. A lucky viewer, well, not a lucky viewer, somebody who turned in a true paranormal story to the channel is going to have this sent to them tomorrow in the mail. I'm going to tell you who it is here in a minute. Hang on tight. Have you been submitting stories to the channel at crazylake@mail.com? Because we would have the absolute perfect view if it just wasn't for the end of that limb right there. I've got to cut off with my titty mini chainsaw. Give me a second. All right, we got a more clear view there. You watch for him, her, it, or they. And thank you to everybody who's been going to my Natitty affiliate link in the description box and buying these things. Several of you every day since I started pitching this product. Why? Because I gotta get paid! And it's a good saw. I believe in it, I use it. Let me show you what I've been making with it here all day in the woodshed. Gotta show you this. Yeah, we're getting to it. All right, Sandra V in Texas. Vigarius, I'm probably mispronouncing that again. Another prolific writer, submitted multiple stories for the True Haunting volumes and the Bigfoot Sasquatch files. She has some awesome stories. Sandra, she requested with her last story she sent that she wanted a snow person. So that's what you're getting, guys. If you have any real, true experiences with anything paranormal or cryptid, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, ghosts, aliens, anything, and you don't mind me sharing your stories in either video or print form, send them to the channel, crazylake@mail.com. And a few times a week, we're going to be doing this sort of thing where I send you something I make in the woodshed or in the wood shop, which today, I'm going to show you what's up for grabs now if you guys want to keep on sending in your stories. Now, you can buy this stuff in our Etsy store too, or just send us your true stories and you can win these random drawings. This is a set of Santa Clauses. Aren't these nice wood cookie Santa Clauses? I'm doing most of these things in sets of 4. It's got the little Christmas things on them. So I did this today. Yeah, we're getting to a story. We're getting to like a ghost story. So hang on there. I know you guys like this. Big turnout yesterday for that story, the Bigfoot Sasquatch story, about the one called I Know That Weren't No Bear. Originally titled something else. I don't know. But look at this. These are like, I made a set of 4 of these. Aren't those cute? They're like, the paint might not be all the way dry yet, but these are like Christmas ball type ornaments. And then I did, these are my favorite. Where do you see these? Okay, here's 2 snow people on a turquoise backdrop. And then to go with this set, because again, they're sets of 4, I've got 2 snow people on a red backdrop. So yeah, we're selling these as sets on Etsy. The link to our Etsy store is in the description box below as well. But I'm also giving these up for grabs 2, 3, maybe 4 times a week. Depends on what the turnout is here on the channel. When I come up and tell some stories, read some stories. Many of you daily are submitting stories and I appreciate it. And I bet you if you haven't won yet, you will. Your name's coming up. And then finally, and this is what I'm going to be reading from today. Bam! We finally have our print copies of True Hauntings Volume 2, Personal Stories of Real Experiences with the Paranormal, Supernatural, Cryptids, Aliens, and UFOs. Okay? So, if you're like Sandra V or yesterday's winner, Nina P, you've got stories in Volume 2 and in upcoming Volume 3, which it'll be out before Christmas. Maybe Thanksgiving is as prolific as you guys are being. And I mentioned yesterday, again, and I'm getting to the story. I'm going to read you a good story from this. You can get these on Amazon too, in Kindle or print. combined shipping on our Etsy store with volumes 1 and 2. But I mentioned yesterday I wanted to give props to Nina P. Because she's such a good writer. Her work hardly needs any editing, if at all. And it's because she reads a lot and writes a lot. She actually got back to us and let us know that she actually, because I said I didn't know what her highest level of education was. She said she's actually a graduate from West Virginia University. That's the University of West by God, Virginia. So that's really neat. I just thought I'd share that. I think Nina, she mentioned she was a non-traditional student, which means she was older when she finally went to college. So props for her. It's a little more difficult when you're a little bit older. What do they say? Old dogs can't learn new tricks. Nina P proves that wrong. Not that I'm calling her an old dog, but you don't learn quite as quickly, I guess. So guys, what I'm going to do today is, well, I tell you, this is going to take you back to October, because I actually wrote this like the first day of October. But I'm going to read you the introduction from volume 2, because it does include a ghost story. I was seeing a lot of weird stuff. You see that? What is that? Listen. I hear footsteps. You know, that one freaking limb. These come in multiple colors. Purple, pink, they cut very efficiently. I'm still on the first battery, first charge. Comes with an extra battery. So you have no downtime, but this battery's still alive. Still working. Come at me now, brah. There's a coupon code. Get you 8% off too there as well. And my Natiti dealer just gave me a coupon code for Amazon too. More of you are buying them on Amazon than you are on the Natiti site. But anyway, wherever you want to get it, I'll give you that code for Amazon too. But I was seeing some weird stuff in October. One of them I put in here. Actually, a couple of really weird things happened in here. Hope I put the other one because it happened on the same day. I was getting chills thinking about it. I'm not getting chills from the weather. It is November the 7th right now as of this recording. And it's still almost 80 degrees right now in Central Virginia. It hit 84, I think, today where we live. I mean, when I went running this morning at 9 a.m., I go a little bit later in the day this time of year because usually it's, you know, very cold in the mornings, but I like going at 9 because it gives all the ants have gone marching already into town to do their work, so I don't have to deal with the traffic. But it was so hot and humid, I almost took my shirt off in the last mile, and it's like November. It's crazy how hot it was today. But in October, the veil was so thin, especially getting close to Halloween. How many times was I out here reading stories from October Nights Part 2 and we saw the October Rider go by, but only after he had already been introduced in his story, the October Rider. Guys, and I'm sure there's a 5,000 word story in here somewhere. I'm just going to tell you about something that happened in October that I know I saw a ghost. I mean, I know I saw a ghost, and I believe I heard one, and you're going to hear about this one in the story I'm going to read here in a minute. On one of my places where I run, there's this farmer, and he's late 60s. Know him by first name and wave high and by type thing when we see each other. I know that I think he and his father, I know he and his father used to farm cattle together on this property that he has. And I know his father died almost 2 years ago now. I think it'll be 2 years in January. So we're two months shy of it being 2 years. His dad was about 90 when he died. This guy's a loner. You just never see him with anybody. He's always by himself. there was a day in October, it was about mid-October. I had finished my run. I was doing a walk, doing my cool down. The older I get, the longer my post-run walks are. Not because it takes me longer to cool down, but because I just enjoy it. So on this particular morning after my run, I'd walked particularly farther than usual. And this guy's cattle field, where his barn is up on a hill off of the dirt road where I was running. And I happened to look up, and I see him up there facing the field, looking at the cows. Barn's on the left. He's standing there facing out the fields towards the cows. And there's a man on his right, another man on his right. Similar build. No, they were wearing different clothes, different outfits, but if you'd have put them in, they looked built like as if they were identical twins. But I could tell the guy with him was older from the distance. He was about 150 yards away. And I remember it registered in my mind, that's odd, because that guy's always alone. I never seen him with anybody. So I go on up the road, turn around, I'm coming back, and this time they're facing down towards the road, towards me. And I'm like, well, he's got someone with him up there, a friend or something. Now, it's kind of a long property as far as how it faces the road goes, and the driveway comes down at an angle before it meets the road, which was probably another 100 yards or so up above me. So I'm continuing to walk down the road, and I hear a car coming. So the guy had gone, the farmer had gotten in his car, and he's coming down the driveway. He's leaving, going somewhere. And I thought, well, I guess I'll see who was with him as I wave as he comes by. So he comes by and I wave, and he's by himself. He's in his car by himself and he waves. And so I assume that whoever was with him had driven their own car. So I look back up the driveway to see if the next guy's coming. I was just going to wave, say hi, good morning to him. There's no one there. And I looked, and there was not another car in the driveway. I knew at the time I'd seen that guy's dad's ghost. I don't know if he was aware of the presence of this other entity with him as he stood there and watched out over the field and looked at his cattle that morning. Maybe he knew, maybe he didn't, but this is an honest to God story. I told my wife about him when I got home, and of course she says I'm crazy. She thought, well, you planning out your next short story for the day or something? I'm like, no, I saw that. Now, there's a short story in there. You give me a year or two, maybe that'll be one that ends up in True Hauntings Volume 3. Remember it if that's the case. I honestly believe I saw the ghost of that man's father that's been dead almost 2 years. So there was no one with him in that car, and there was no other car coming down behind him. All right, so I'm going to read you the editor's introduction by Kevin, a.k.a. Crazy Lake, here in this one. Again, I want to give... I've stopped giving props to Eerie here over the last couple of months. She's kind of a mainstay now. She does most of the editing that is required when folks send in stories. So, Eerie, I know you're watching. Thank you for the help with this stuff. There's no way these would be getting pumped out as quick as they are. The work would be overwhelming. You remember I was running around like chasing my tail or something there before I finally took her up on her offer to help me administrate this channel. Took out a lot of the work I was doing that didn't need to be done. But I want to thank each and every single one of you who contributed to this volume, the first volume, and who has already been contributing to future volumes by way of sending your stories. If you have a story associated with any of this stuff that you would like to share, and if you don't want your name to be known, you know, there's a lot of educated professionals, people who work in places where they would be shunned. They would be laughed out of their place of business if people knew that they had experiences with the paranormal, or if they believed that they saw a Bigfoot Sasquatch. So if you want to share your story but you want to remain anonymous, just let us know when you send the email. And again, the email address is crazylake@mail.com. And if you do, you send it again, you're going to be in the drawing for, you know, Sandra V and the great nation of Texas got this. Nina P got one of these, but we got all kinds of goodies. And if you have a preference, you can look around in our Etsy store. The link is in the description box. And you say, hey, I want that. I like that one thing you made, you know, like the skunkin' tiles that people won, the Halloween decorations. And if you want the Halloween decorations, take them. Just make sure it's something I made, okay? And somebody suggested I sign the back. I am going to autograph them with like a permanent Sharpie or whatever before I send them out. So you'll have that. All right. Now that I've burned up 15 minutes of your life, 15 minutes you will never, ever get back, I'm going to finally read you the story. Okay? First and foremost, and from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank everyone who has emailed Eerie and myself their stories which make up this volume. When I first made available the email address attached to our YouTube channel, Homesteading Off the Grid, so that people would submit their stories of all things that go bump in the night, I assumed I would get a dozen or so stories for the 1 dozen or so folks who'd been commenting in the comment section of the channel for some time to open an email account where their stories could be sent, and tons of hate emails from all the vertically challenged individuals who live under bridges out there. Boy, was I wrong. This is surprising. I guess I've filtered those people out over the last 5 years. I don't know. Some of them, maybe they gave up. They realized I'm not going to stop making my stupid videos, whatever. Not only was I amazed to see that we would receive in less than 2 months enough stories to compile the first volume of this never-planned series, but also that the stories would just keep coming, and that in such a short period we would have enough stories for yet another volume. It's right here. Folks, these volumes are a minimum of 40,000 words long, which, if you are not a writer and do not know this already, is the standard length of a full-length novel. These volumes are not novels, of course, as they are short story collections, though non-fiction as they may be. But my point is, that's a lot of words, which make up a lot of stories, which have now made up the second volume of what seems to be taking off as what may very well become quite a long-running series. I hope so. If you have friends that are into this thing, if you know somebody from work, or you have a relative that had some sort of experience in a haunted house or think they saw a ghost, send me the channel. Have them watch these things. We got playlists from all the October Nights readings. We got a playlist called Ghost Stories. Have them send us your stories. Wouldn't it be great if we could just, produce one of these like every 2 months and just, it went big? Wouldn't that be awesome? So, if you're reading this, or if you're listening to me read it right now, and you would like to see one of your strange experiences highlighted, it's the email address again. I already did that. Now, with thanks and sales pitch for more stories aside, I have quite the little unexpected treat for you, a story of my own, and an experience that happened just this morning as of this writing. I came back and wrote this after this happened, so it would be fresh in my mind, okay? So the details are ever so fresh in my mind. Oh, what do you know? And my skin still has goosebumps from my experience. It's my hope that I can pass these goosebumps on to you by way of this story. As I type these words, or right now as I read them, I did so on the front porch of our more than 1 century-old sharecropper house in the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia. As I gaze up occasionally, giving my eyes a break from the screen, I stare out across our beautiful pond, beside of which this morning I witnessed a 6-point buck standing while drinking water. I remember that. As I open the living room window blinds at sunrise, I can see the beautiful fall foliage in the trees surrounding the pond just beginning to yellow, and I can see it reflected splendidly off the top of the water in the pond. I could not think of a more beautiful setting in which to write. Actually, I attribute such a beautiful setting to the secret of my craft. As they say in real estate, location, location, location. Guys, this is my backdrop. You sit in a place like this. I'm outside like almost all day, every day. I don't watch news. There's not a television in my house. I don't let toxic people spend time in my presence. I do not spend time in the presence of toxic people. The creativity that flows from a magical place like this, and the strange things that happen when you get all that crap out of your head. You see farmers with their deceased parents. I'm telling you. And no, well, I mean, I ain't crazy, but I saw that. As this is the most beautiful time of year, in my humble opinion, and absolutely my favorite time of year, I cannot stand spending a moment indoors this time of year if I do not have to. I'll spend many nights, actually, over the course of the next couple of months, sleeping outdoors in a tent on top of the hill behind our house at our family's campground. That's where I am right now. We're going to camp out here a lot this fall, more than we ever have in the fall, and the winter, because it's so warm this year. Oh, the spookiness that awaits me and my family, should they dare to join me, which I know they will, on these soon-to-be, as of this writing, October nights. No plug intended. Well, maybe, the book. Let's take our son to school this morning and then go hiking, I said to my beautiful bride dearly, a.k.a. Giggly Girl, as I handed her coffee this morning, shortly after waking her up to help me get our son ready for school. Okay, she said, an avid outdoors person herself. We allowed our son to sleep for an extra half an hour, and then we did as planned. The area in which we live, Albemarle County, Virginia, is an outdoorsy person's delight. There are numerous public parks, hiking trails, fishing spots, so many that my family and I are somewhat regularly discovering such areas where we've never been, as was the case this morning, when my wife and I played a bit of Get Lost in Virginia and came to a park that had a series of trails we never hiked. We parked our truck, walked together around a beautiful lake, and then when she didn't quite feel like hiking straight up the mountainside, these trails were a little steeper than those to which we were accustomed, and she simply wasn't in the mood for a tiresome effort, we decided that she would walk around the lowlands for half an hour or so, and that I would go for a 40-minute trail run on the steeper segment of the trails. I checked the trail map at the entrance of the steep section of the trails, and as usual, it showed that there were multiple trails within the trail system. The longest route, as always, would be the outermost trail, which circled the entire area for a distance of 4 miles. It's always easiest to remember the route of the outermost trail. All you have to do when running counterclockwise is take every right fork, and if running clockwise, take every left fork. I ran counterclockwise, as always, because I'm an old track guy and we never die. We just fade away by way of our 4 minutes and some odd seconds miles ran, becoming 8 minutes and some odd seconds, frightening close to 60 seconds, miles jogged. At any rate, I'll get my little mishap out of the way now, as it's not really pertinent to the story, but part of it is. As I was running through the trails, again, trails on which I'd never been, and as I was taking every right fork, I noticed that not all right forks were to be taken, as every third fork or so had signs that read, "Park boundary, private property past this point," hence letting me know to continue going to the next park fork before turning right. I'm hearing footsteps. Keep getting my 6. Well, as it turns out, I missed seeing one of these signs near the furthest most point in these trails, and I took a wrong turn, and I ended up running for nearly a mile on private property before deciding to turn around, having realized my mistake, because the trail simply ended. It was shortly after turning around when I experienced yet another strange event in my life. An event that I believe I can explain, but only through paranormal means. This is why I'm telling the story of this morning's strange events here, and not amongst a group of logically minded friends who would simply hear me out and then say, "And you wonder why they call you Crazy Lake?" When I reached the spot where the trail ended, I had also reached the top of what had been a very steep climb. The trail had been getting thinner and thinner as I'd been going, and when I reached the top of the mountain, it simply ended. I turned and began trotting down the hill. It was too steep of a grade to actually run down, and even a jog would be too painful on my nearly old man, I'm 48 now, almost 49, joints. However, I did not want to walk, as I view that as weakness when running, so I trotted. It was while trotting, about 200 yards after having turned around, that I heard the strangest of sounds coming from my left. To describe the sound, I must first explain one of the few things I understand about how the mind works, and that is in regard to association. I heard a tree knock. Association is a powerful aspect of the working of our mind. Basically, certain experiences from our past heavily influence the way we interpret current and future experiences. I'll give a brief example, as this happened only days ago. My son was playing football in our yard with one of his schoolmates who lives close by. I was on the back porch painting some wooden jack-o'-lanterns I'd recently made with a bandsaw and jigsaw in my wood shop. And they're available on our Etsy store, Homesteading Haven. If they've not sold out already, no plug intended, well, maybe. Come on. We know I'm a shameful, shameless self-promoter. Buy my, not mine, but Natitti's Mini Chainsaws. Links in the description box below. Yes, I earned a commission. Thanks. Appreciate your support. They're good saws, too. They're awesome. They come in multiple colors. They were playing football, and then his friend asked me, "What's that, padding?" I said, "No, just some wooden jack-o'-lanterns I made." I'll leave out how he said, "What? Halloween's not even close." And how I said, "Kid, it's only 6 weeks away." Man, that shows some respect to the greatest holiday of the year, Gen Zers. My son asked me a couple days later why his friend thought the jack-o'-lanterns were padding. I told him that at some point in the past, his friend had seen padding of some sort that looked like the jack-o'-lanterns. I then explained how our minds make connections and associations. Now, with this said, these associations can be made visually, as was the case for my son's friend, or by way of any of our other senses. It's why the smell of mothballs might remind you of all those old World War II generation folks you went to church with as a kid. It's why the taste of sweet corn might forever remind you of the summer spent at your aunt and uncle's farm in the Midwest, etc. So, what was this strange sound I heard? In the middle of the forest on top of the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia on this day, only the second day of fall, 2022, so this would have been September 22nd, I guess. It was the sound of someone rolling over in bed. Yes, that's right. I heard a sound that immediately had my mind associating it with the sound of someone rolling over in bed. However, as this was in the forest, it sounded as if the person rolling over was doing so on a bed of leaves on the forest floor. You know, imagine you've got a blanket around you, go like that. Definitely a significant difference in the way it sounded versus walking or stepping or jumping or falling down. Sounded like somebody rolling over in bed, but on a bed of leaves on the forest floor. Instinctively, I looked over to my left, the direction from which I heard this strange sound coming, and what I saw only 20 yards off this trail, barely wider at this point than a wildlife trail, brought my trot to an immediate halt. Now, before I expose what I saw, let me make this point very clear before explaining. I grew up in the woods of neighboring West by God, Virginia. And yes, the folks there, like Nina P., do wear shoes. Throughout my youth and my early adulthood, before migrating to the motherland of Virginia, go Hoos go, if it was daylight and if I wasn't in school, I was either in the woods hiking, hunting, or running, or I was on a riverbank fishing. I have successfully hunted deer, squirrels, rabbits, and turkeys, and though I've never hunted black bears, I have seen scores of them, many at very close and uncomfortable distances. I know the sound of every living creature in the deciduous forests of North America. I know the sounds they make for communication among themselves, and I know the sounds they make when they walk, run, jump, climb, or shimmy. Yes, that's a word. It's what a raccoon does when it comes down a tree, and yes, I know that sound too. I love it when the vertically challenged individuals who live under bridges in the comment section say stuff like, "You need to move back to the city. Country life ain't for you." If you had any clue. And FYI, yeah, I lived in cities. I lived in one called Mosul. So you would have the right to say stuff like that to people you don't even know. Brah. It's in Iraq. Look it up on a map. The sound I heard matched none of these sounds. My mind told me I'd heard the sound of someone rolling over in bed. I've lived in other cities too, by the way. And when I looked to my left, I came to an immediate halt because there, 20 yards off the trail, I saw the stone foundation of an old house that more than likely was built sometime in either the late 1600s or early 1700s, and certainly before this great nation was an independent nation because it was still part of England. Yeah, old foundation from like pre-colonial days. Holy shit, I said, after I'd stopped, and I instinctively and immediately walked through the woods to investigate. Ugh. That water's warm. I sure do wish I'd have brought my water up today in my Stanley Travel Mug Trigger Action Thermos, because it keeps it cold. Thank you for the literally dozens of you who have been buying those travel thermoses from the link in my description box. As a matter of fact, I'm sure those of you who have been on the fence until now, when I have compared it to a lesser class competitor that does not keep the water cold, I'll put the link to the Stanley Travel Mug down there for you. I made my way to the middle of the old foundation. There were still piles of stone standing, making up two sides of the foundation. These stone piles, still level at the top after all these years, were about 2.5 feet high. They were about 20 feet apart. This would not have been a large house, but the pioneers from that long ago era did not build large houses, for you see, the larger the living space, the harder it was to keep it warm in the winter. I stepped over the foundation on the farther side, and I crept over to the side of the hill. Despite the still heavy foliage, I could see clearly for nearly 100 yards down the hillside, and there was no sign of any wildlife, and of course, no other people. I didn't expect to see either, as I know that I'd heard what I'd heard, and I knew it wasn't an animal, and I saw no one sleeping on the forest floor. Noting that my heart rate was coming to a resting rate, I decided to go back to the trail and continue trotting before my body came to a complete cool down. That's always as uncomfortable getting going again as it is to catch a 3-beer buzz, let it wear off, and then start drinking again. I know this part from long ago. I stepped back into the space between the stone foundation where a house had once stood, and as I was walking through, heading back for the trail, the tip of my left foot hit something quite solid. I looked down and I cleared the leaves away with my foot, and there, now slightly exposed, was what looked like the rounded part of a log that may have once been part of a bed's headboard. I leaned over and cleared more leaves away with my hands, and I found a thinner rod-like piece of wood coming out of the side of the larger piece of wood. I attempted to pick up these jointed pieces of wood, but they were so old they crumbled into nothing in my hands. Had those pieces of wood been part of an actual headboard, there's no way they would have dated back to the origination of the house. But it's easily believable that any house that was there, as well as anywhere else in the Blue Ridge Mountains, left behind by the early pioneers, could have easily been lived in by anyone for more than a century, if not two, after the original builders of the house had moved on or died. Did I hear a ghost? Was it the spirit of someone who'd perhaps once upon a time lived and maybe even died in that old house? Had I awakened the spirit while trotting past? Or was there a time and space portal? The veil is thinning, don't you know, as we make our way closer to Halloween. Could there have been a rip in the fabric? Could someone from back in 1687 rolled over in bed, telling themselves that it had only been a dream in which they'd seen some strangely dressed man trotting down the side of the mountain just outside their window? These are the questions that may never be given definitive answers, but they are the questions we must reasonably ask after having such experiences as I had this morning on my trail run in the Blue Ridge Mountains. And this is the season, along with all the other reasons you are about to read in story form, for this second volume of our new series, True Hauntings. Enjoy. Kevin, a.k.a. Crazy Lake, Albemarle County, Virginia, 22 September 2022. 2222. Numbers mean something. So there you have it. That's the intro. That was from me. I think Eerie wrote a thank you in the back, and the rest, dozens and dozens of stories of viewers like you, potentially you. And again, congratulations to Sandra V. from the great nation of Texas. This is going to go out to you in the mail tomorrow. And if you would like to be considered to be the random person drawn for any of the stuff we make, send in your story, ghost story, haunted house, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whatever, to crazylake@mail.com, and get your copy in print now. You get it from our Etsy store. I will autograph it for you before we send it out, or you can get it on Amazon, a printer, Kindle. And I know next time when I come up here, they're not going to be able to hide behind that limb, because I'm going to go get rid of that limb right now with my Natitty Mini Chainsaw, of which you can get with an 8% discount with my coupon code. That link and the link to the saw itself in the description box below. See you for more next time. I know you heard that one, didn't you?